Hello, my name is Djanie. I'm an advanced hair, scalp and skin specialist, and I'm going to be doing some reaction videos today about some hair and scalp practices that I just want to have a look and see how people are performing these.
Okay, y'all, so my appointment is in like a minute and I'm 3 minutes away. And y'all, the last girl, she did end up sending me my money back 3 days later after having to threaten her to call the police.
I'm guessing that there's some trauma here, but we'll see. We'll see.
So my appointment was at 2, it's 2:21, and she told me to wait outside.
When a client arrives on time and is asked to wait without any explanation, that immediately breaks the trust that you wish to have with the person who's about to do your hair. Whenever we're conducting consultations and when we're looking after our clients, we prepare and we make sure that everything is done accordingly. Sometimes you can't help what's going to happen, so you have to communicate that to your client. And it is a way to respect your client's time. That sometimes, they are late, and if they're late, then they have to also bear the consequences. But usually, as a professional thing, you should apologize to say why you're not there to greet them, or why you can't start doing their hair straight away. It is just foundational.
Katie, if you can see this video at 2 African braiding, baby, I would never go against you again.
Stop talking tough, bitch. You look tough in the face.
Okay, well, she on that, then we on that. But if you don't want to fight, we don't have to. But it's like.
Okay, so there's a lot of unprofessional conversations taking place, not directly with the client, thankfully. The consultation principles that we have emphasizes on rapport, preparedness, and communication from the very first contact that you have with your client. That seems to be a miss here. Also, leaving your client multiple times without explanation, it can make the client feel anxious and nervous. And I suppose by asking the client that you're not seeking permission, but you're almost telling them what it is that is happening. So I need to step away quickly to just do something. That is also engaging the client and consenting to them that you're leaving them for a moment. If they have an issue with it, this would be their time to tell you that they have an issue. This is not happening. In the professional practice, attention stays on the client. We have to make sure that we're looking after the client, and side conversations and phone calls and things like that, it kind of signals disengagement, and it undermines the confidence that the client has or should have with you. So that is not very good. And she's having to braid her own hair because she feels that the service provider is not trying to. So that is very, very unusual and heartbreaking to see. You're paying for a treatment, you're paying for a service, and you're having to do it for yourself because you just have no trust in the person that you're sitting in front of to do it for you adequately. That is incredibly sad. At this point, trust is gone. She feels she's not going to get the service that she is going to pay for. So as a service provider, I would be appalled already by something like this. If my client felt the need to do this, unless it is something that I don't know. I just know that I would have an issue with that, and I would consult further. Consultation does not start and stop at the beginning of a treatment or of a service. It's continuous. It starts from when you meet the client, or even sometimes on the phone. You're conducting a consultation on the phone before you even see this client. And so it continues, it carries on. There doesn't seem to be anything happening here that seems to me that it's a professional setting. So I'm guessing we're losing that professional aspect of things because of the fact that she's perhaps going to someone who's doing this as a side thing.
Okay, let's get into it.
If she asks for a straight parting, she should get a straight parting. But again, I think that this is also boiling down to a consultation failure. Something's going wrong here What's straight to one person may not be straight to the other. And that's why we use tools. We have various tools to help us to make sure that what we're offering to our clients is exactly what they're looking for. So if the client is looking for a straight parting, the most important tool that you could use is a mirror in front of you. So the client can see what you're doing, you can see what the client is asking for, and then you can compare notes that you are actually giving what is expected for, by the client. This is so important. It is a shared reference point for us to use so that the service is no longer a guesswork. It's actually what we're asking for, what the client is asking for. So we would ordinarily have a mirror in front of us or in front of the client. We're standing behind the client and you can see where you're parting. And they can see where you're parting. So then they can tell you, actually, can you go a little bit left, a little bit right? And at that point, if you disagree as a service provider, that's fine. But that client has the opportunity to engage in that consultation with you, that you can then decide whether this is the center parting that they're asking for.
I had to go back inside because she gave me a schmiddle part and then try to get a little attitude about it, but we digress. And honestly, the part is still not in the middle and the braids just look really weird to me, but at this point, I'm over it.
Tools that we have help us to prevent misunderstandings like these. But the client is now left with a parting that is off-center, which isn't what she's asking for. She's not happy with her braids. I don't know why. The video doesn't actually say why she has an issue with the braiding. I must commend the fact that she was able to over-direct the hair to one side on that freshly braided hair. That is impressive that she can actually do that straight away. Is that signifying to me that the braiding technique is good and maybe creating an environment where hair loss may not happen? Perhaps so. It looks fairly tight to me, I have to say, but sometimes people's pain threshold can vary. So someone may be okay with having their hair braided tightly and can still style it over directing it, but usually freshly braided hair that looks this tight, you may need to give it a couple of days for it to relax and loosen up a little bit before you can style it like this. But if you can do this straight away, to me, that signifies that the styling itself is not as tight as it normally would be for hair that looks like that.
I also told her not to dip my hair because she was trying to dip my hair with my braids looking like this, and I was just like, no, I will braid them all the way to the end because dipping my hair while my braids are unraveling is insane to me, so no.
Again, there seems to be some more issues. I mean, this moment is critical. The braider is about to apply hot water to the ends of the hair, and she asked the braider not to do so because the braid hasn't been plaited down further enough as she would like it to be. So she's saying, don't do that. You shouldn't put the hot water on there until it's braided down further. Again, consultation issues, clear boundaries are being ignored. Applying hot water to the braids without the client consenting to it it's just too stressful. This doesn't seem to me like it's a very relaxing experience.
Experience is definitely 0 out of 10. I am done with all Georgia hairstylists is at that. So I'm gonna go home and fix it. I'm gonna deal with this hair tomorrow.
That is just terrible. I have to caveat this and say that home-based service providers do not necessarily mean that there is no professionalism at all. Some people are home-based and they do have a professional setup and do practice professional practices with things like this, with services like these. So I don't understand what's happening here. From a trichological perspective, I don't think that there is any sort of risk of anything to do with the hot water situation. But in terms of the tightness of the hair, yes, I am concerned about traction issues, sort of excessive tension styling, but she seems to be managing it quite well. The emotional distress here, usually is what I'm really worried about here as to how she feels about having her hair done. She's almost cancelling all of the hairstylists who may be in the area. So that's also not very good. I'm going to go through my rating the severity of this treatment. Do I think it's high, low, or medium risk? If she went home and took down the hair, if it's too tight, then it's low risk. If it's not too tight and she just needs to braid the ends and so on, then that could also signify that it's low risk. But if it's tight and the braiding technique is not right or whatever, the hair can be seen as high risk. It is a reversible thing, so she can just go home and just take the whole thing down. But for the sake of just a parting issue, I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about that. I don't know how she can do that, how she can DIY this. I don't know, unless she has the braiding technique similar to what has been done, because sometimes you will notice that braiding, when it's been done by two various people or different hands, the technique can somehow be dissimilar. So if she can create the same sort of braiding pattern and correct the parting without it overcompensating in one area than the other, then that's fine. She can go home and DIY this. If she can't, then I would say a professional care is needed. Perhaps go to someone else that she trusts, that she can get access to, and get them to repair this for her. I always err on the side of caution and say, people, try to go to the same person who did it for you and get them to correct what they have done. In this case, it looks like there's been a breakdown in trust, so I don't think that she would want to go back there.
What I asked for. What I got.
All in all, I think that this is just a situation where communication did not occur. It did not happen here. Effective communication for a good consultation to take place did not happen. And that is pretty sad to see, because otherwise things could have turned out much better. The hair doesn't look so bad, but it doesn't look as great as it potentially could have looked if they spoke and consulted with one another, rather than being on the phone with somebody else instead of your client. So that isn't very good. So this is educational, not a diagnosis. But if you have protective styles done and you're feeling that the scalp is sore and so on, make sure that you do let the person who's doing your hair know that it is painful. Communication breakdowns like these and styling practices and things like that can just have an effect on the outcome that you're looking for. So eventually, if things aren't done properly, in this case, it just seems to be things that aren't so bad in terms of the parting of the hair and the braiding on the end. So I'm not too worried about that. Now, do you see this as just a bad braid job, or can you recognize how consultation failures create the outcomes that she received? What do you think? Let me know.